It's time to accelerate. Hi, I'm your host, Andy Paul. Join me as I host conversations with the leading experts in sales, marketing, sales automation, sales process, leadership, management, training, coaching, any resource that I believe to help you accelerate the growth of your sales, your business, and most importantly, you. Hello, and welcome to Accelerate. I am looking forward to talking with my guest today. Joining me is Nicolas Vandenberghe, co-founder and president of Chili Piper. Not Chili Pepper, Chili Piper, just so people don't think I mispronounced that. That's focused on making an intelligent calendaring system for sales teams. Nicolas, welcome to Accelerate.
Thank you.
So take a minute, introduce yourself. So tell us how you found your way into this space that you're addressing with Chili Piper.
Sure. So this is my fourth company. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've done different companies, always tech companies in different spaces. I've done consumer software, e-commerce, biometrics.
Biometrics? What'd you do in the biometric space?
That's a good question. We had partnered with this brilliant technology, invented a unique way to recognize people's face. Mm-hmm. He did that in 2003. So it was a very timely thing because, of course, after September 11, security was a big concern with big budget. And it built this application that could tell apart identical twins. That's how precise it was.
Wow.
So when we did that, we met some U.S. government official. They say, who are you? We said, the company, the three of us. They said, okay. So they introduced us to the largest defense contractor, strongly recommended they buy our company, which they did for a very good price. And then we got the contract for all passports and US visas. So when you send your photo for your passport, your photo is processed by our software to make sure that you're not on a watch list and you don't have a duplicate passport and so on. It's been deployed to all the international visas and then all the US passports. By the way, if you go to the border and you see people having their picture taken as they cross the border in the US, it's also our software checking that you're not one of the terrorists on the list.
So that, were you in the US at that time?
Yes, I was already in the US. I came to the US to go to Stanford Business School in the mid-90s. I was at the birth of the internet in Palo Alto and San Francisco in the mid-90s. Mm-hmm. And then I came to New York in the early 2000s, and I've seen the growth of the tech scene here in New York in the last 15 years. It's been quite impressive. So that's my background. I played around a little bit for a while in the venture capital space. I was with Draper Fisher Jefferson in New York, and then decided that this is not something for me. I'm an operational guy, and I decided to jump back into starting companies. And the idea that I'm currently working on came from my own experience with CRM systems in general and Salesforce in particular. The systems have been designed in the late 90s, and they do a really good job as systems of record. So by now they're very sophisticated and well integrated with a lot of other apps. But I could see that there are many ways around mobile and web apps to add value to the end user, and that Salesforce would be challenged to do these apps because it's just hard for them with such a huge system in place to evolve. So that was the original idea. So I'm going to focus on helping salespeople do their job better. There's a huge opportunity. There's a lot of salespeople. If you help their life, the results are immediate. You can tell that they book more revenues and they sell more. So it's easy to prove the return on investment. And we first started looking at the inbox of salespeople and their email and trying to help the email. And quickly we found that there's a lot of companies already focused on that space, but there are very, very few, if any, focused on the calendar. And yet, if you think of it, meetings, the blood, the lifeblood of sales, right? In the end, you send a meeting, you send emails mostly to send documents and to book a meeting, and the meeting is where you're really going to be able to explain the value of your product. So we actually surprised these days that there's no more attention on the calendar application for salespeople, and that's what we're focusing on. We started with a very narrow pain point because it's always a good idea when you just start up to focus on something that you can dominate. So that pain point is the handoff of meetings between prospecting team and selling team. So
let's talk about that. Let's deconstruct that for a little bit. So why do you think people weren't paying attention to calendar? You say that's critical sort of pain point. We're going to get into. I know studies been done on how many clicks it takes to set up a meeting, or if you're an SDR and so on. But why do you think people are so focused on email and not on calendars, which is really sort of where everything flows from?
That's a good question. And I don't know that I know the answer. I do think that here's how I think of it. In Silicon Valley, often people think about pain. So is there a pain? And I think there was clearly pain around email. For example, people were sending the same email over and over. So Yesware came and did email templates. So there was a pain in copying and pasting the same data. So there was the question. Then people wonder if people would open their email. So TarTap came with email tracking. So tell you that there was some pain of I wonder if people have seen my email. In the calendar, it's not clear that there's the equivalent pain. So that's probably the reason why people focused on email there yet. And you would think, well, if there's no pain, then there's no business, but that's not the case. I think when Steve Jobs launched the iPhone, my phone was a Nokia at the time, and I had no pain with it. It was working just fine, right? But when Steve Jobs came with the iPhone, they say, well, I want that. That's a much better way to do it. And so our take is that people may not have this pain that they've identified, but we do know that there are better ways to do calendar by taking advantage of the information we have from Salesforce and from other sources. So in summary, I think the answer to your question is that the opportunity to add value is less obvious in the calendar. I think it's equally real, but less obvious to everybody.
All right, so let's then talk sort of the baseline application, or maybe one of the first applications you're doing with Chili Piper, which, well, actually, before we go there, so what's the inspiration for the name Chili Piper?
Yeah, so it comes from he who pays the piper called the tune. That's where it comes from.
Where's the chili come in?
Because then I can't remember at some stage where we display on word on chili pepper and chili piper, and we said, well, that sounds cool because the piper will be hot, and so we say make a hot piper. But the piper calls the tune. That's the idea that our software is going to drive sales and call the tune.
Okay, sorry, just want to get that out of the way. So, so you've talked about initially as one of the applications is really facilitating the ability to set meetings if you're an SDR or BDR. Set a meeting for an account exec, whether that's a demo or a conversation or whatever. And I was just talking to someone saying that it can take SDRs up to 250 mouse clicks to schedule meetings right now. So how do you facilitate that? What's the system do?
So what we do is that we have both a back end and a front end. The back end, when the SDR is looking at a prospect, will look at the data in Salesforce about that prospect and make sure that it's routed to the proper account executives. And that may be either a named account executive who on the account, or an account executive to be assigned on a round-robin basis. So our backend does that. It routes using Salesforce data. So for example, let's say this prospect is in Los Angeles. It's a large company. It should go to the large enterprise West Coast team. This prospect in Texas, it should go to the southern mid-market team. And then we make sure that the round-robin assignment is fair. So that's the backend piece. And then...
and let's before I jump on, so let's talk about the round robin piece. So you have in there the ability to set rules in terms of how the leads should be distributed based on some algorithm that you set up.
That's exactly right. You can set these rules, and you can use all the main objects in Salesforce, lead, contact, accounts, opportunities, and all custom and standard fields in Salesforce to decide on how to route something. So a lot of our customers have custom fields. For example, one of our customers is a company called Billiam in Boston. They help property management, and the key thing is how many units are under management, and that's a custom field in the Salesforce instance, and based on the number of units, they're going to route to different teams. And our software will do that. You say, this prospect work for a company that has 2,000 units under management should go to the enterprise team or mid-market team. So then we assign to account executives, and we make sure that the assignment is fair. And the way we do that is we look at over a month period, we make sure that all account executives receive the same amount of meetings. We give the option to put some of them on a lower rate. So you may have people who are new who should only get half the amount of meetings or third amount of meetings. We also manage for vacation. When people are on vacation, we understand that that month they will have fewer meetings, and we do all that automatically. So the SDR doesn't have to wonder who's next, doesn't have to wonder, make sure it's fair. It's all done automatically by our back-end system.
So when the rep is putting together the handoff to the account exec, what's that process look like then?
So to describe how the process looks like, we have to mention that we've also built a front end. It's a browser extension in Chrome. And what it does is that it inserts a little icon next to the prospect in the application that the SDRs are most likely to use. So within Gmail, Gcal, Salesforce, Outreach, SalesLoft, the SDR will see a little icon, and if he or she presses this icon, our software open the calendar of the right account executive. So in one click, you can see in one place the calendar of the account executive which is going to get that meeting. You can select the time in the account executive's calendar to book the meeting. And once you've selected the time, we pre-fill all the information in the title, meeting description, location. We even call the API of applications like GoToMeeting to retrieve the meeting info and dynamically insert that into the invite. So one click opens the calendar, one click to select the time, one click to confirm. That does it. The entire meeting is booked. The prospect receives an invitation with all the correct information. We actually write it to Salesforce, so the meeting is now in Salesforce under the activity, open activities for the prospect. And in Salesforce, you can create all sorts of triggers. For example, change the owner, or even convert the lead to an account that was an opportunity. Do all these things immediately in real time because the software writes to Salesforce in real time. So you mentioned 250 clicks. A lot of our customers tell us that it takes about 10 to 12 minutes when they do a round robin to properly book the meeting. With our solution, it takes 3 clicks. Literally 3 clicks, one click on an icon, one click on the calendar of the account executives, and one click to confirm. So we are very happy customers. I can share some testimonials that actually beyond our expectations. They thank us for hours that have been saved. Another company in San Francisco called 5 Stars has told us that when they started deploying our software, they saved one full-time equivalent for a team of 50 people.
Yeah, full-time equivalent of an SDR.
Yeah, or the sales ops. Yeah.
Interesting. So okay. So what's beyond now? You do the SDR. You've done the SDR AE handoff. So how does this then populate? Let's say to somebody that's not using inside sales, maybe a more conventional Salesforce or somebody that's a little bit of a hybrid team. How is the calendaring going to work for them?
So the application, the front-end application that I've described, is in effect a way to accelerate the booking of meetings. And to anybody who books a lot of meetings, and that's most salespeople, at least people with high volume, that is applicable to their process. So now we have starting to have customers who just use our app without a handoff, just to book their own meetings. It not only makes it faster, it also makes it more accurate. So in 2 clicks, I can send you a meeting invitation that will have your name, your company number, my go-to-meeting or join me information precisely at the right time, plus directly in Salesforce. So now we're finding that the self-booking of meetings is tremendously helped by our application. And of course, we're going to work on more features, the ability to let the prospect self-book by sending some available times and a URL where they can book the meeting with a salesperson. And we're working on other features around creating value around the meeting.
So have there been any sort of correlations that you've been able to see between, I know there's time saving we talked about, but what about from the customer end? Is there any benefit you've seen in terms of being able to more quickly schedule the meetings, in terms of higher yield out of the meetings that are scheduled?
Yes, that's a good question. So our first application, the booking is done by the salesperson. And the advantage for the prospect is that it's done in real time. We no longer have to wait, spend 12 minutes to book that meeting. It takes 3 clicks from salesperson. So the prospect receives immediately the invitation with all the information while it's still on the phone with the salesperson. And that helps reduce the number of no-show, because the prospect has seen the invitation, is confirmed, is committed to it, and is much more likely to show up for that meeting. Now we're building, as I mentioned, the ability for the prospect to book himself or herself by sending availability. So in 1 click, the prospect will be able to confirm the meeting, and that's also a time saver from the prospect. And that's the big things we are working on next is adding value further, not only in time saving, but also in effectiveness. So when you're having a meeting with somebody, each meeting has an objective, right? So you're trying to do 2 things. You're trying to gather some information. So you're typically in the early stage, you're qualifying the prospect. In the later stages, you're trying to go deeper into the pain point and some important variables that matter to sales process. So you're trying to capture some information, and you're also trying to influence the prospect by conveying how your solution can help. And that both process of capturing information, conveying information, can be helped by intelligent software that makes sure that you ask the right question at the right time, that if some information is missing, it pops up and tells you have to get this information. And by making sure that the next meeting you have all the information up to date available before you start the meeting. And that's a tremendous boost to the effectiveness of the sales process. I had the case happen late last week when an account executive called me and started asking me the same question that the SDR had asked me before. And I'm thinking, why is he wasting my time asking questions he should have known from the SDR, right? And it could be that the SDR didn't put it anywhere. It could be that they put it in Salesforce, but it's hard for the account executive to retrieve in Salesforce. But the bottom line is that the account executive was not in possession of the information that should have saved 5 to 10 minutes and made my experience, me, the prospect, much more enjoyable. So that's the next frontier. What we're going to address is the execution of the meetings around data capture and information management.
But it seems like there are more systems out there today that talk about the ability to help reps ask the right questions at the right time. People trying to automate parts of the playbook and so on. So where do you see what you would do in that to be somewhat differentiated from the other products that are out there?
That's a very good question. The systems, I'm not aware of any of the systems being a success. So
that could be. Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that they're not saying that they do what they claim to do well.
That's a fair point, and I think the reason for that is that salespeople still consider themselves as artists to some extent. They feel the skills in, and something heavy that is a playbook. This is how you do it. You go through the screen and the screen. It's just not something that matches their nature. And so we see companies able to do workflows in Salesforce for the prospecting teams. So they go and ask this. But as soon as it's further down the funnel,
right, it breaks down.
It breaks down. You get a rebellion if you say you're an account executive, and it is what you screen one, you're going to ask that, screen two, you're going to show that, screen three. So these playbooks that are heavy, more like a workflow, do not get adopted. I can't think of in the SDR world, some adoption. In the account executive, zero. I can't think of any account executive who says that's fantastic. No, I just put it on screen. They'll say, look, you're paying me good money for my talent. I don't want anything. So the challenge is to do something that's pleasant for the account executive, that adds value, and yet does guide the account executive towards a process that has been proven more effective, right? So it is proven that if you ask these questions, you're going to be in a better position to explain the value proposition of your product. And sometimes the account executive will forget. So the solution is not to put a big, heavy business process in place. The solution is to find a smart way to entice the account executive to ask a question and capture the data. And we think that we've cracked it by going through the calendar and building an app that's a lot more user-friendly.
Yeah, I mean, I really think that this is the next frontier, right, is the account execs. There's so much emphasis being placed on SDRs and the volume of applications that have been introduced and continue to be introduced to support the SDR function.
The account executive is a lot harder to sell to. Ironically, even tech companies, they're not as technophile. They tend to be technophobes. They use themselves as social skills people, and so it's much harder to get them to adopt technology. But that making it harder doesn't make it impossible. So it's a bigger challenge and a worthy challenge to try to get some apps for them that they actually enjoy using.
Well, that not only enjoy using, but also that help them close orders, right? So at the end of the day, anything that helps an account exec close an order is something that's likely to be adopted.
Right, that's right.
So now we're going to move into the last segment of the show, Nicolas, where I've got some standard questions I ask all my guests. And the first one is a hypothetical scenario, and you're a serial entrepreneur, so this would be a good question for you. Is in this scenario, you, Nicolas, have just been hired as a vice president of sales at a company that sales and revenue have stalled out, and the CEO and the board are anxious to have it turned around in a hurry. So what two things could you do your first week on the job that have the biggest impact in terms of starting a sales turnaround?
The first thing I would look at, which I believe that the core of sales is qualification. So I don't believe in selling ice to Eskimos, right? I don't believe in there was this talks about you can sell anything to anybody. I don't believe that's the case. You can sell somebody who has a real problem and for whom your solution brings a lot of value. So the first thing I would do is look at which accounts are closed and what is specific to them that made them close. And then I would look at the prospect that we have in the funnel, and I would focus on the account that are more likely to close, and possibly exclude the one that are not as qualified, so that no time is wasted on accounts that are not going to close. So that would be the immediate first thing, is a refocus on the pipeline. And then, of course, the second thing is you have to look at the talents and skills of your team and assess where they are, and try to help those who need help, and those salespeople who need help in making sure that they come up to speed, both in their knowledge of the product and their understanding of the process, and also some more general skill that they may be lacking. So that would take take a bit more time, but you can turn around people pretty quickly if you've identified a weakness and help them work on it. So these would be the two things I would do.
Okay, and get them using an intelligent calendar system. So, okay, so now some rapid fire questions to, and you can give me one-word answers, or you can elaborate if you wish. So, when you, Nicolas, are out selling, let's say Chili Piper Services, what's your most powerful sales attribute?
Of me personally?
You personally.
So I actually care about people, and I am really finding a lot of pleasure in helping people, and I think my prospects feel it. They know that I'm there to help. Of course, so we in business, so we want to close the deal and get the revenues, but the natural inclination that I have is to help people, and I think that's what people feel, and as a result they say, well, I want to work with this guy because he will be there when I need him.
Okay, great answer. Next question is, who's your sales role model?
My sales role model. So I started my career in strategy consulting. I joined a spin-off of the Boston Consulting Group, started by one of their lead European partners, and he was able to grow his company from 0 to 100 consultants in a very short time. Mostly thanks to his salesmanship, and so that it definitely influenced my career a lot. What I found is that he was able to rephrase his client's problem in a much more. It was both conceptual and practical. So he would take a problem and immediately identify how to put a framework around this problem that made the solution clear. And as a result, this company would hire him. And that is a strong influence on me. If you can phrase the problem, if you identify the problem and put it in the right framework, as the French says, is around the idea that a problem, when phrased, is already half resolved. And that's what he was doing, and so that was a strong influence. So when I go into a prospect, I would always try to find, okay, what is the problem and how can I explain it in a way that half solves it. Okay. So that would be my role model, that person.
Okay, excellent. So one book that every salesperson should read.
So that's a very good question. I had not liked any of the sales books until recently. I found that statements that are unproven. I'm one of the few people who think that the challenge of sales is actually crippled with a lot of mistakes, things that will not work or are unproven to work. Mm-hmm. But there has been one book recently that I found very strong. It's a sales development playbook by Trish
Bertuzzi.
Right. Yeah, that's right. And that's because she doesn't try to tell people how to sell in the world of selling. She's very practical. She says you need to build a sales development team, and this is how you build a sales development team: from hiring to paying to motivating to setting goals. It's real practical information. Yet she never loses sight of the big picture. So that's definitely a strong book. I have also liked the Mark Roberger's book, the Chief Revenue Officer from HubSpot, right, around this process. So that has also been that would be my second recommendation.
Okay, great. Good books, both of them. Both have been guests on the show. People can go back and listen to their episodes. So finally, the last question for you is what music's on your playlist these days?
Okay, so I'm a big fan of being based in New York. I'm biased toward this artist called Philip Glass, mm-hmm. who does this minimalist music, and inevitably I go back to his music and put it back on my playlist. So that's what's on there these days, and it will probably be there for a long time.
Okay, great. Well, good. Well, thanks, Nicolas, for joining me today. Tell people how they can find out more about Chili Piper.
How can I find out about Chili Piper?
Yeah, how they can find out more about Chili Piper.
Well, you can come to our website, www.chilipiper.com. So that's chili like chili and piper, Piper. And they can contact me directly. I'm Nicolas, Nicolas at chilipiper.com. I'm always happy to talk to prospects, customers, or just any general question.
Great. Well, good. Thank you for being on the show. And remember, friends, make it a part of your day every day to deliberately learn something new to help you accelerate your success. And easy way to do that is to make this podcast accelerate a part of your daily routine, whether you listen on your commute, in the gym, or as part of your morning sales meeting. That way you won't miss any of my conversations with top business experts like my guest today, Nicolas Vandenberghe, who shared his expertise about how to accelerate the growth of your business. So thanks for joining me. Until next time, this is Andy Paul. Good selling, everyone. Thanks for listening to the show. If you like what you heard and want to make sure you don't miss any upcoming episodes, please subscribe to this podcast on iTunes or Stitcher.com. For more information about today's guest, visit my website at andypaul.com.